The evening unfolded like every other family gathering for the past 5 years, Jessica at the center, making sure everyone remembered where I stood in the family hierarchy. At Bellacort, the city's most exclusive Italian restaurant, she snatched the wine list before the hostess had even left the table. "Sarah, maybe stick to the appetizers," she said sweetly, her tone soaked in mock concern. "I know a warehouse salary doesn't stretch far in places like this." I glanced at the menu, entrées $45 to $85, wine starting at $30 a glass. For anyone, it was pricey. For someone making minimum wage, it was a week's paycheck. "Thanks for looking out for me," I murmured, keeping my eyes on the pasta section. Mom lit up as if Jessica had cured cancer. "That's so thoughtful, darling." "Sarah, she's just trying to help. You know things have been tough since you dropped out of college." The words landed exactly where they were meant to. I hadn't dropped out, I'd sacrificed. 8 years ago, when Dad's first heart attack hit, bills piled higher than insurance would cover. Someone had to work full-time. Jessica was finishing law school. Marcus was knee-deep in pre-med. Their futures couldn't be interrupted. Mine could. But that's not the family version of the story. "I never understood why you quit," Dad said flatly, eyes on his menu. "Marcus worked through med school. Jessica graduated law with honors. You just gave up." Jessica leaned in, helpfully. "Not everyone's built for higher education. And that's fine. The world needs warehouse workers too." Marcus nodded like a seasoned psychiatrist diagnosing a patient. "The key is finding work that matches your capabilities. Some people just aren't built for pressure." I sipped water and kept quiet. This was the script, Jessica asserting dominance, Marcus analyzing, Mom and Dad applauding, me absorbing the blows. "Remember when you wanted to be a chef?" Mom chimed in, as though recalling a child's fantasy. "You were always tinkering in the kitchen. I should have known then your ambitions were more practical." Dad grunted approval. "Nothing wrong with knowing your limits." The server appeared, elegant in her uniform. "Good evening, can I recommend a wine to start?" Jessica pounced. "Something special, it's our mother's 60th. What's your best?" "The 2015 Berlot, $120 a bottle," the server replied. Jessica's eyes lit up. "Perfect, and we'll take the large seafood tower." I glanced at the price, $180. Between the wine, appetizers, and entrées, this dinner would run over $600. Jessica wanted me to see it, wanted me to know she could afford it. I could not. "Maybe Sarah should try something more manageable," Dad cut in. "The chicken parmesan is only $38. "Dad, it's fine. I can afford dinner." Mom patted my hand. "Sweetheart, don't be stubborn. No shame in being practical. Jessica's covering the big things, you order what makes sense." The heat climbed in my chest, not rage, but the practiced patience I'd honed over 8 years. Arguing never worked. The times I explained leaving college for Dad's medical bills, they called it excuses. The 60-hour weeks? Drama. Covering the mortgage? Petty scorekeeping. So I'd stopped explaining, stopped defending, stopped fighting battles I'd already lost. "The chicken parmesan sounds perfect," I said with a smile. Jessica's lips curved with satisfaction. "Very sensible." "Good," Dad said, nodding as though he were the authority on my life. "We just worry about you, sweetie." Working in that environment, around different kinds of people, I knew exactly what he meant. People without degrees, people who worked with their hands, people like me, apparently. Before I could reply, a ripple of activity near the hostess stand drew everyone's attention. Several servers clustered together, whispering, one of them pointing toward our table. "What's all that about?" Mom asked, craning her neck. "Probably some problem customer," Jessica said airily. "These places attract people who don't understand fine dining." Her words had barely settled when a distinguished man in a tailored suit strode toward us. Silver hair, warm smile, the calm authority of someone who mattered. The servers stepped aside respectfully. "Good evening," he said smoothly. "Robert Martinez, General Manager. I trust everything has been to your satisfaction?" Jessica's professional voice snapped into place. "Oh, absolutely. The food is incredible. The service impeccable. You run a remarkable establishment." Robert inclined his head politely, then his eyes found me. "Wonderful to hear, but if you don't mind, I'd like a quick word with Miss Chen. The table froze. That's me, I said softly. His face broke into a genuine smile. Miss Chen, welcome back. We haven't seen you in a few weeks, and the staff was starting to wonder if we'd lost you. We've prepared your usual private dining room, if you'd prefer more privacy for your family celebration. Jessica blinked. Dad's menu lowered. Mom's jaw slackened. Thank you, Robert, I said evenly, but tonight we'll stay here. Of course, he replied with a slight bow. And the chef has arranged a special dessert for your mother's birthday. We'll bring it out later. With that, he left us to our stunned silence. Jessica was the first to recover. Sarah, how does the manager of Bellacort know you? And what's this about a private dining room? A few visits, I said lightly, sipping my wine. Marcus's brow furrowed. A few? Sarah, a meal here costs more than your weekly paycheck. How could you possibly? And private dining rooms? Jessica cut in, her voice rising. Those are for corporate events. They cost thousands. Their faces were a storm of confusion, trying to reconcile what they'd just seen with the Sarah they thought they knew. I don't understand, Mom whispered. Sweetie, are you overspending? Are you in debt? I gave her a calm smile. I'm not in debt, Mom. Before they could press further, our server reappeared, looking hesitant. Apologies again. But there's a small issue with your bill. Miss Chen's employee discount should have applied automatically, but the system seems to be glitching. Would you prefer we fix it now or after dinner? The silence was electric. Employee discount? Dad repeated faintly. The server looked confused. Yes, sir. Miss Chen's ownership group benefits. Normally, family celebrations are comped entirely, but... Jessica's face drained of color. Ownership group? I'll handle it later, I said smoothly. The server nodded quickly and retreated. This silence was heavier. They weren't just confused now, they were shaken. Marcus finally cleared his throat. Sarah, what exactly do you do for work? I set my glass down. I work at a warehouse. But the discount, Mom stammered. I shrugged. It's the warehouse that supplies Bellacort, and a dozen other restaurants in the city. That was true enough. I just hadn't mentioned who signed the paychecks. Dad leaned forward, grasping at straws. So, you're a distributor? Something like that. Robert reappeared again, looking apologetic. Miss Chen, I'm so sorry to intrude once more. Bistro Lauren's kitchen manager just called. They're out of organic microgreens for tomorrow's critic review. They're begging for an emergency delivery tonight. He noticed my family's stares but pressed on. I told them it was your mother's birthday and you shouldn't be disturbed, but they insisted. I sighed. Tell them I'll have a driver drop a shipment by 10. They can pull from the main storage. You're a lifesaver, Robert said gratefully, before vanishing again. Now, no one even pretended to speak. The air was thick with disbelief. Jessica finally found her voice, brittle and sharp. Sarah, what is your actual job title? I met her gaze and smiled. Owner and operator of Chin Premium Foods. We supply organic produce and specialty ingredients to 43 restaurants across the metro. The words hit like an earthquake. Mom's napkin slipped from her hands. Dad stared at me as though I'd spoken another language. Marcus looked like his brain had short-circuited. Jessica whispered, 43. And for the first time in 8 years, I let the truth sit between us. Unflinching, I took another sip of wine and decided it was time to stop letting them guess. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful success reveal stories. I started the company 6 years ago, I said evenly, with the money I saved working warehouse jobs, and a small business loan based on my distribution experience. Jessica blinked, her voice unsteady. But, you dropped out of college. I left college when Dad had his heart attack. I reminded her gently. Someone had to cover the medical bills. Someone had to keep money coming in. That someone was me. Dad leaned forward. We know that part. But what happened after? I learned the business. I said, every shift, every position. I loaded trucks, managed inventory, coordinated with suppliers, handled restaurant accounts, and in the process, I saw the gap. High-end restaurants needed reliable organic ingredients. The big distributors didn't care about quality, so I decided to build something that did. Mom's lips parted. So, you started your own company? I started small. I explained. 1 restaurant, 1 truck, 3 organic herbs I grew myself in a rented greenhouse. That restaurant loved the consistency, so they referred me to another, then another. Jessica shook her head. But starting a business costs money, facilities, equipment. How could you afford it on a warehouse salary? I lived simply. I said. Studio apartment, $300 a month. A car older than I was. Rice and beans for dinner. Every dollar I didn't absolutely need went into the company. Marcus's tone carried a faint edge of accusation. So every family gathering, while we thought you were struggling, you were just hiding this? I wasn't struggling, I said. I was building. There's a difference. But why keep it from us? Mom whispered, her eyes wet. Sweetie, we thought you were barely scraping by. Because every time I tried to explain, you shut me down. I answered softly. When I said I worked 60-hour weeks, you said I was exaggerating. When I mentioned business plans, you called them unrealistic. When I pointed out I had clients, Jessica laughed. Marcus told me to be realistic, so I stopped explaining. Jessica flushed. I didn't mean. Robert returned then, apologetic but urgent. Miss Chen, forgive me. The owner of the new steakhouse downtown is here tonight. He'd like to discuss becoming a client. Should I tell him you're unavailable? I glanced at my family's stunned faces. Tell him I'll be happy to meet, but not tonight. Have him call my office Monday. My assistant will schedule something. Robert inclined his head. Perfect. Oh, and the chef wanted me to thank you. The new microgreens you suggested? Critics have mentioned them by name in 3 separate reviews this month. When he left, silence swallowed the table. Jessica finally whispered, Sarah, how big is your company? I let the pause stretch before answering. Last year, $4, $2 million in revenue. Marcus choked on his wine. Million? We supply 43 restaurants, I said simply. From small bistros to places like this. Orders run from $2,000 to $15,000 a week, depending on the menu. Dad's eyes went wide as the math hit him. The company is profitable, I added. I pay myself a modest salary. The rest goes back into expansion. Mom's voice cracked. Why didn't you just tell us? I tried, I said quietly, but it was easier to let you believe your version of my life than keep fighting to prove the truth. The dessert arrived then, an elaborate chocolate sculpture inscribed in gold leaf, Happy Birthday. Compliments of the house, the server said cheerfully, for Miss Chen's mother. Mom stared at it, whispering, it's beautiful. The table was quieter now. Jessica's shoulders had slumped. Marcus kept sneaking glances at me, trying to reconcile the sister he thought he knew with the woman sitting across from him. Finally Dad asked, if you're successful, why live so modestly? Why drive that old car? Because I choose to, I said, because building something sustainable matters more to me than showing it off. Jessica exhaled, her voice barely audible. We thought you needed help. We thought you were the failure in the family. I never needed your help, I said gently. I needed your respect. The drive home was quiet. Mom clutched her photos of the dessert like proof. Dad asked business questions, his tone softer now. Marcus seemed humbled. Jessica, for once, had no performance left in her. As we waited for our cars, she finally spoke. Sarah, I owe you an apology. We all do. I thought I was helping. I was just cruel. You weren't trying to be cruel, I told her. You just never listened. This time, she nodded, eyes lowered. Then I'll start listening. And for the first time in years, I almost believed her. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful success reveal stories.